Hey everybody, welcome to Tuesday. And Tuesday used to be on this channel something I called Tata's Tuesday. I went every Tuesday and talked about something about women in gaming. I stopped doing that for a while because I didn't want to be the woman who's always talking about women in gaming. I wanted to be able to branch out and just be a generalist for a while because, it gets depressing and it gets anxiety inducing to constantly have people yelling at you over things involving gender, like something you can't change, right? But I think in the wake of this Activision Blizzard thing and the fact that stuff is still coming and the fact that gaming websites are going shame, 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 and some of them are like, listen, gaming website, I know you're guilty of sexism as well because I've experienced it. I've experienced major gaming websites telling me, well, we've done enough about women in gaming when all the bylines were written by men. I had one the editor-in-chief of a major gaming website tell me that they wouldn't cover lady bits because my videos were too long and they had kids at home. Yeah, no women could ever use that excuse. So on and so forth. Long story short, gaming needs to stop blaming gamers for sexism. And every game company out there has to start paying better attention, not just to women, but to the unique experiences of all their employees. I believe that the problems that result in this sexist, racist, so homophobic, so on and so forth treatment actually come from another source. And these are perhaps symptoms in a deeper problem in how game companies function. And that's what I'd like to talk about today. So if you like this kind of content, help support this channel, become a monthly patron, patreon.com/Leanna K. So the problem, in short, is that there's a lot of buck passing going on for the root causes of things. But the real issue is there's a lot of nepotistic hiring practices that go on in these companies. Friends hire friends, friends vouch for friends. And I mean, we all want to work with our friends, right? If we know somebody who's really talented, I don't think there's anything wrong with vouching for someone who is legitimately good or letting them know about a job posting within a company. But in gaming, it's much, much, much deeper than that. In order to get a job at one of these major companies, you have to cultivate relationships for years. It's very inside. And then, the general hiring is just what's left. And those tend to be, lower paying jobs with less job security and less potential for upward mobility. And there is always going to be some working with friends in artistic industries. And there's a good reason for that. It's not evil. It's basically that when you get approval for something, you have to get up and hit the ground running fast. And you need people who have the same work style as you. You don't have a lot of time to work out communication styles and all that stuff. Fights are going to happen. You need a team that fights productively in the same ways. It's just the nature of the beast. However, the amount of nepotism that goes on in games, it's a problem. It's a problem in terms of, let's face it, with gaming, guys are more likely to be friends with guys. And so women are cut out of those. And that's one of the things that's come out of the whole Blizzard thing is it starts that, women don't have the friends vouching for them on the inside. And they come from lower paying jobs. They don't know what the pay scale is. at the company, and they end up being hired at a lower rate. And so they stay at a lower rate throughout their career. Now, I've been underpaid every job I've taken, but that was to, build up my resume so that I can say I actually have some jobs under my belt. And the truth is, people don't really care. People want to work with the people they like. I shouldn't say people don't really care. It matters if, there isn't some friend somewhere that can do the job. And again, because this is one of those things people are going to scream at me for, there's nothing wrong with working with your friends, especially on like an indie project. I think that there's something to be said for it. But these big companies, the problem is echo chambers form, because the only way you get in is you have to kiss ass for a really long time and show you're part of the team before you're even part of the team. There's no appetite at these companies for embracing good faith critics who might actually bring something new to the table that nobody caught. And that you get these echo chambers where, it's finally come out that men were sexually harassed at Blizzard and women were part of the culture that, put other women down. I experienced that personally when dealing with Activision and Blizzard. It's not exclusive to Activision and Blizzard. There was a publicist at Ubisoft who isn't there anymore. That's when I started getting things from Ubisoft, when she got hired, because she was over on the Xbox account before that. She's notorious for hating other women. That was the end of me getting any access to Ubisoft. And it happens like that. The publicist who was really great to me left. The other publicist who was really great to me got promoted to San Francisco. And this woman came in and she was qualified. Just nobody was gonna say, hey, she's shitty to other women, right? She's shitty to women reporters. No, of course they're not gonna ask anybody. They're going to hire somebody, in that case, they're going to hire somebody that probably has a stellar resume, that has all these, skeletons in their closet. And this is what happens. And you notice none of this has to do with the gamers, the people who play games, the first people who get blamed for, these problems. And that's part of the problem. This thing will not get better until game companies and game websites stop blaming gamers for the content that is produced by the gaming industry. Marketing loves to say, oh no, that won't sell, that won't sell. A lot of these things are myths. They miss the fact that, Tomb Raider was a killer app back in the day, and Metroid is a beloved franchise, and, a lot of Nintendo games with prominent female characters do really, really well. It's a complete myth that men won't play as female characters. And, just because a guy is goofing around and, zooming in on boobs occasionally in a game doesn't mean they're going to mistreat a real life woman. You're watching media diverge. And, one of the things I used to teach before I ran out of time is I had this thing when I did my gender and gaming talk, and I showed the cover of women's magazines like Cosmopolitan, which, back in the day was considered a feminist magazine. But, Cosmopolitan, and then like Maxim and GQ and stuff like that, men's magazines. And I pointed out that the cover of both of them was women. Women are not afraid of women. Women are good with glamour. We want a greater diversity of what is considered beautiful, not, only one thing is acceptable at any given time and everything else is bad because reasons. Because men can't control themselves, so on and so forth. And you see Sports Illustrated doing, 3 different cover models to show a diversity of body type. You've got television including a more diverse roster of actresses. Now, television's main demographic is 35 plus female now, not 18 to 24 male. So the fact that music and swimsuit magazines and TV and film are all putting a lot of women who look different, more women with more body types. And yes, there is sometimes, cleavage, not in kids' movies, but in adult movies, right? And TV shows and all that stuff. TV for women is filled with sex, right? You don't see that in gaming. And of course, gaming, the core audience is primarily male. And they're wondering why, they're not diversifying as much as these other streaming services and network TV and all that. It's all women. It's all women, because women are amplifiers in terms of influence of what brands a family buys. If you think about it, the detergent, the shampoo you tend to use when you grow up as an adult is it starts off as the one your mom always bought, and mom did the shopping. And even though it's becoming more equal, women are still the primary purchasers of things like toilet paper and dish detergent and laundry soap and things like that. And so people still want commercials on television, so they want those female eyeballs. They also know that people of color watch television and are influenced by television advertising more than white men. White men tend to be cord cutters, except, older white men. But, the core demographic that gaming, despite all its claims, still goes after, is the one that other mediums aren't interested anymore. And look at where other mediums are going. I mean, Queen Latifah playing the equalizer. If these game companies really were interested in more female players, they wouldn't reduce the number of women and the type of women that are involved. They'd diversify the types of women and the number of women involved. Which means you get your Queen Latifahs, you get your Megan Thee Stallions, you get your, I'm trying to think of kind of a glamazon that's on TV right now. I don't watch those shows, so I'm blanking on that, right? But all that reality TV, like the Kardashians and all that stuff, they're filled with that stuff, right? And then you get, characters like Stargirl, who's just super cute, and it's everywhere. There's plenty of stuff, there's different types of characters, and everybody likes something. That's not what we're seeing in gaming. We keep seeing only one type of woman is acceptable at any one time. And that's not treating women like people. That's treating women like the reflections of the men who worked on the game. And then you get into this culture war stuff where game developers create a deliberately polarizing character and then act like victims when people get upset by the polarizing choice. And of course, public enemy number one for that is The Last of Us 2. And people are like, oh, there she goes again. But no, hear me out, okay? It's like the heel in wrestling, right? People want to know who the face is and the heel is in wrestling because you want to know who you're supposed to cheer and who you're supposed to boo. Well, if a character is introduced, murdering the playable character, one of the playable characters from the first game, of course that's a heel. And so people are gonna treat that character like the heel. And if your goal is to slowly rehabilitate that character in people's eyes, then that's not always going to work. You have to leave a little bit of space in the story for people to absolutely insist that murder is not okay and is unforgivable. The way the Yakuza games go out of their way to not glorify violence, right? That's a brilliant element of they make murder into a big thing. That's why Kiryu never killed anybody is a meme. He'll beat the snot out of them with mandarin oranges, but apparently he never killed anybody, right? Um, there were some people who were always going to hate Abby because she killed Joel. The same way, you know, on the female side, people hate whatever starlet ends up dating their favorite boy band member. It's just somebody coming in and taking something away, right? You're not going to be able to persuade everyone that that was okay. And so you have to create, sort of an ambivalent narrative the way they do with Terran Logain in Dragon Age Origins, right? You get the other side of Terran Logain's story if you make certain choices. But for me, it never, ever completely absolved him for what he did. I understood his reasons. I didn't, it wasn't all good for me. And the game left me the space to feel that, right? That's what you have to do if you're gonna make a controversial choice like that, not have a character introduced killing a beloved main character and then hop on social media and say, if you don't like this character, you're sexist. And of course, I'm paraphrasing there, but, the voice actress got harassed, which was stupid. And, I really think that companies need to stop flag waving when that happens and actually say, okay, guys, cool it. You want to be mad at us? Here's an email address where you can be mad at us. Leave the fucking talent alone. She didn't write this game. Back the fuck off. Like, actually do something to stop that crap. Because I personally think they hung Laura Bailey out to dry on that. It's ridiculous. She wasn't even the damn body model. Like, she had nothing to do with how Abby looked or acted. Or what she did in the story. That's stupid. That was all done by people other than her. And the gamers got blamed, right? It's like, oh, misogynist gamers again. They probably would have reacted the same damn way if some young hotshot dude went in there and killed Joel. They would just hate any character that killed Joel, and then they hated the fact that things were being grafted on to why they hated whatever character it was, right? Like, that was just bad. And that didn't help. And that wasn't Naughty Dog being great champions for women because, well, we still don't know why Amy Hennig was forced out, among other things. And Naughty Dog has high staff turnover, so they don't treat their staff terribly well either. Hint, hint, hint. And then you get, companies like CD Projekt Red where The Witcher 3 did a lot of really interesting things with female characters, but they couldn't quite shake off their reputation up until that point. And so Cyberpunk felt a lot more tonally a step back into the first couple Witcher games and instead of the really good, interesting stuff that made The Witcher 3 really work. I mean, Cyberpunk was kind of a mess no matter what. But companies are using the fact that women come under siege to make other people scapegoats for what's going on internally. I'm good with art that challenges, right? I'm really good with that. I love the fact that in, say, the Bayonetta games, her enemies in the first game are the cardinal freaking virtues. I love big swings like that. I don't mind when characters, women and everybody else are flawed and even evil. But don't force a player base to feel a certain way on pain of being labeled a sexist. That doesn't help anything. That's sociopathic in a lot of ways. Like, that is just some serious gaslighting right there. I mean, I can think of lots of male main characters who kind of usurped male lead for a while, and people really didn't like them. I think the Metal Gear games are an example of that. It wasn't Solid Snake. Fuck this, right? So on and so forth. The thing is about game companies, and this is true of a lot of industries, but they have this diversity mandate, but they only hire women and people of color who maintain the status quo as, look, we have them, right? They're not interested in our ideas, and the minute we feel strongly about something, they find a reason to marginalize us and either fire us or make us quit. I've been in multiple situations where I knew a project was trying to make me quit. I just hung on for as long as I could to collect those extra paychecks. I wasn't going to quit. They were going to have to come up with some bullshit excuse to fire me because I wasn't going to quit. It also gave me time to sort of tell, other people I work with, like, hey, here's this and here's this and here's this because I think this is coming. And of course, you can't expect other people to fall on their sword for you because they have families and they need a paycheck and everything like that. Nobody expects that. And I think a lot of people are carrying around a lot of guilt for seeing something, knowing it was wrong, being too afraid to say something. And the truth is that the culture at these companies, that's why they work, because they keep everybody so beaten down and terrified. And I've always believed that sexism in a company is basically a canary in a mine shaft for a company that doesn't treat anyone particularly well, right? If guys were treated like kings, then there'd be some guys with the power at a company to say, hey, maybe you shouldn't do that to her. Maybe we should listen to what she has to say or he has to say, and so on and so forth. These companies like to keep people afraid and back on their heels so they can pay everybody less or pay everybody as little as possible, work them as hard as possible, and make people as expendable as possible so they can, get rid of them and get somebody who will work for even less. There's a reason people sue each other all the time in Hollywood. The Scarlett Johansson and Emily Blunt and Emma Stone and Gerard Butler lawsuit saying, hey, give me my money on back end. Shit breath. That has to do in business. I mean, Peter Jackson had to sue New Line for back end on the Lord of the Rings. It's so pervasive. That's why so much money gets thrown around in Hollywood. You need to pay management. You need to pay agents. You need to pay lawyers. Everybody gets a piece, right? So that $20 million payday, you might see half, less after taxes. And that's still a lot of money. But, you might do one major movie at that payday every 2 years, every 5 years, right? A lot of working actors barely get by because people take so much. But Hollywood is an industry of pay me. Gaming can't do that the same way because the margins on these games are much smaller and people are usually salaried. And except for a few voice actors, and even then, most people don't buy games because a particular voice actor they like is in it, only like the diehard fans do. And so the gamers have very little power. The rank and file devs who care about what they're making have very little power. They have very little information. But the ones that even do have information, they have very little power. And, the people at gaming websites who really care and want to write about, fun stuff, positive stuff in games, they don't have any power. The people who have power are all people who are basically so far into that nepotistic circle jerk that They don't see what's right in front of them. They don't see the bad behavior that they're complicit in. And, you know, they don't reach out and contact people and be like, hey, do you want to write something for us? Hey, do you want to come in and do this with us? You seem to have good ideas and we need some fresh ideas now. We need to know how we could get better. They don't do that. They wait for people to come to them and they put them through the gauntlet so they're good and tenderized by the time they start. And all this talk of innovation, 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 innovation. Gaming, sports games might be creating these wonderful technical innovations. Everybody's drooling over SSD capabilities. But in terms of new kinds of characters, interesting, iconic leads, gaming is stagnating. And I don't think that it's because, gamers won't accept it. I think it's because these nepotistic, discriminatory, and by discriminatory, I don't, you white guys are probably going, oh, that doesn't mean me. No, it does. Okay. There's a small core of people that control everybody else, okay? Men got harassed at Blizzard too, and of course, the games press is being fairly complicit in just not covering that angle. I'm not sure why. Maybe they think it'll hurt the court case, but let's be frank, the court case is about pay discrepancies, first and foremost, with, sexual harassment as a garnish. So that's just going to be, did you pay women significantly less than men? Regularly? Okay, you're guilty. Pay up. Damages. The harassment of individuals is a different thing. And I don't think we should be covering up the fact that men got harassed too because somebody cares about a greater narrative. That's bullshit. Facts have to create the narrative. Facts shouldn't bow down to the narrative, right? And as long as anybody is tossing out facts, we're going to have discrimination. Right? I mean, yeah, these websites are struggling as well. They've been acquired and they work for conglomerates as well. They have bosses, but they're so damn preachy that there's no excuse for the lack of diversity in their content. I mean, Ash Parrish left Kotaku after only a year. What the hell? I was critical of her stuff sometimes, but she, I actually enjoyed reading her stuff. She had a fresh take. She's gone. Gee, I wonder why. And her farewell article spent a lot of time talking about how low her self-esteem was. If I were her editor, I'm like, yikes. Whoa. And she made it sound like it was such a positive experience, but come on. If somebody's going out the door talking about their low self-esteem, yeah. The truth is that the game companies still only embrace women who are seen and not heard, women who toe the line. And there are exceptions, right? There are combat directors on God of War and, women in meaningful positions in other places. There are exceptions, obviously. You haven't heard about those companies having scandals like this. But for the most part, they hire women to hire a woman, they hire an individual who happens to be a woman because she happens to be a singular talent. Why? Because women aren't getting the early career opportunities to build that resume. And so, the circle goes round and round and round and round. But the people who have the least control over that, and the people, who are more supportive of strong, sometimes even belligerent, loud, not nice women, are the gamers. And they're the ones that keep getting blamed for content and workplace practices that they have absolutely no control over. The industry can't push the lie anymore that they're just giving people what they want because people keep saying, we don't want this. You know, like Naughty Dog put a game out. They probably knew people were going to have a reaction. Sony didn't say no. There was a massive friggin' fight over a Lombax's boobs at Insomniac. Gamers didn't reject the character. Come on. Cut the crap. It's not the gamers. It's the corporate culture at these companies not giving gamers the variety that they're absolutely craving. And that's why more and more people are turning to Japanese games, myself included. They're characters that feel like people, and their stories that are about things. And as surreal and ridiculous as they are, they actually feel real instead of this stilted pantomime of what's safe and can get by, marketing in the C-suite. So let's call it what it is. At least I'm taking the risk and saying, no, at the core of all this stuff is the nepotistic hiring practices. And I think there's, like I said, I will repeat again, so nobody can say otherwise. If you got somebody you work great with, that's a job skill. But I've heard a lot of stories about friends hiring friends, and they weren't as good as another candidate. I know a lot of women who claim they were set up to fail because they got stuck with somebody's buddy who everybody thought was a really, really nice guy, and she was expected to do his work. It's a big head from Silicon Valley, right? So let's cut the crap and stop blaming the gamers. And let's actually do better, because I know a lot of gamers are really, really, really upset about this, and they don't know what they can do. And the truth is, they really can't do anything. The companies have got to get more serious and start treating diversity like actual diversity, not just moving the pinhole of what tiny, tiny trickle of different types of people can get in at any one time. Okay? Okay. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/LeannaK. Thanks for watching.